I love articles that go to work for She-Hulk Attorney at Law because it's an awful show. And this is something that audiences would agree with me on, considering that it has an average audience score of 36%, which is pretty awful. Even with Rotten Tomatoes' weird things that they're doing with the scores lately, which the Woman King exposed, it's still at a 36, which is pretty pathetic. Audience score of 80, or critic score of 87, which makes sense because this is a show about a 30-year-old woman and her dating life for some reason. They seem to think that that's what Marvel audiences wanted. Nobody wanted a show about a superhero's dating life where she's single, lonely, and I'm surprised it doesn't have a bunch of cats, but people are being mocked for apparently not understanding this show like it's some kind of serious drama or classic, like it's the Citizen Kane of Marvel or something. She-Hulk star-ass fans, if they even understand the show. Giant Freaking Robot writes a whole article on this, and it's like, you're acting like this show is some kind of like masterpiece, and it's not. It's a pile of shit. All this show is a great example of people in the media proving once again that they're playing ball with Disney Marvel. But of course, if you don't like this show, you're nothing but a misogynist, a man-hater, a man-child baby. You would say it right here, saying that it's a bunch of misogyny. All the critics that criticize this show are misogynist. It's right here. She-Hulk Attorney at Law has also been noticeably criticized for its depiction of a female protagonist and its light tone, often by people online using misogynistic language and imagery. So memes, don't forget, memes are misogynist. Critics have noted that the show constantly calls out misogynists. Yeah, what's funny about this show is it does a lot to make fans and people like that criticize Marvel and what they're doing lately as toxic misogynists. So much so, in fact, that I guarantee you that they're going to make that a central point of Captain America New World Order. I went over that in a previous video, but basically the seeds are there in that scroll computer website. I say it like that because in the comics it was an organic computer, but in the show it's like Toxic Reddit or Kiwi Farms or something. Not sure what they're going to do with that yet, but it is coming. I mean, we have great, amazing writers. They keep getting promoted. I'm being sarcastic there because they're not amazing. People are all excited about Avengers Secret Wars now, but they're using the writer from Loki and Doctor Strange too, which, by the way, have high audience scores on Rotten Tomatoes. What the hell? Doctor Strange 2 is one of the worst piles of trash that I've ever seen. Loki could have been a great show, but that female Loki was awful. And compare her to Tom Hiddleston, who is like walking charisma. That guy can take anything and make it decent. Pairing her and him, they had zero chemistry. It was awful casting. Couldn't you have at least got a female Loki that had chemistry with Tom? I don't think that would have been too hard to do, but they managed to pull it off. That show sucked. Doctor Strange 2 sucked. And now you're failing this person upward, though I guess to them it's not failing upward because Doctor Strange 2 made a shitload of money. Surprisingly. That movie, my opinion, awful. Garbage movie. Complete garbage. So now that person who wrote that and Loki is now writing an Avengers movie. So now, in my opinion, this movie going to be a complete pile of trash. The secret is that the movie is shit. That's what the secret is for Secret Wars. It'll have nothing to do with the comics, probably barely anything to do with the comics. They'll just do some whatever and just use that name as bait, basically. But I'm not excited about this at all. It's going to be shit. Probably Miss Marvel is the leader of the Avengers or something, because nobody watched that show either. As I pointed out before, this She-Hulk pile of trash did not even make Nielsen's top 10, but somehow it's number 1, according to Jamal. This show's awful, but they act like it's such a masterpiece. Look at some of these articles. The Mary Sue, the Mary Sue is the audience for this show. The Mary Sue, it's almost like She-Hulk was made. They're like, oh well, we're gonna have let's make a show that will just appeal to the women at the Mary Sue. Like, look at these articles, and they've been simping for this show since day one. Ginger Gonzaga's Nikki is her own kind of superhero, and She-Hulk, she can hang with me anytime. Yeah, I bet a bunch of like middle-aged, lonely women hanging out together, probably complaining about men, just like She-Hulk just did in episode 7. This is funny. Bounding into Comics drags this episode, gives it a 0. Its overall score 0. I thought that was funny. So this episode's all about her love life and her basically mad that she got ghosted. So see how she's going in here, no service. So she bangs some dude. Do they have this dude? So she bangs this guy as Jennifer Walters, and this guy ghosts her after he sleeps with her. So she's of course obsessing over him. Like, see her that she's obsessing over the phone, waiting for him to respond back. Here she is sending like emojis, and he never does. So now, like, the entire episode is dedicated to her complaining about getting ghosted and sad about it, and how he's a toxic man baby to all of these people in a trauma. It's literally the writer's room of women for this show, because it's all women from what I understand, complaining about their love lives to an audience. Look at her sending this guy all these texts. First off, that's really weird. But it's just like, this show has it has no remorse on trying to go after men and calling them man babies and all this shit. But this was really funny. From the very first episode of She-Hulk, Jennifer Walters has been portrayed as an angry, self-absorbed twat who is somehow surprised that no self-respecting man wants to date her. It's now 6 episodes later, and the show still has yet to give audiences a single reason to like her character. So why in the world would the writers think anyone would care about her stressing over a one-night stand who isn't calling her back? She-Hulk is the living embodiment of a neoliberal white woman, drunk, angry, bitter, middle-aged, and constantly awarded despite being terrible at her job. The only positive spins for the show I can think of at this point is that it only has 2 episodes left, and given its Nielsen ratings, it's doubtful we'll get any second season. Not even shoehorning She-Hulk into another character's show could help her appeal at this point. Instead of feeling bad for myself for having to watch this show for your entertainment, I feel bad for the women who relate to garbage like this. Identifying with the show is like snitching on yourself to the world that you can relate to an unlikable female protagonist who, even despite having superpowers, no one wants to be around thanks to her personality. I wish there was an actual plot, storyline, or theme that I could sit here to discuss with you, but none of those things exist in this corner of the MCU. Here, all men are bad because some of them don't call back after hooking up. I thought that was pretty poetic. Anyway, MCU is done. It's really just finished. They keep bringing failures in to write more shit. And I think within, they're saying 10 years. I think the MCU is done in 5 years. I think you start to see a dramatic drop-off on ticket sales. And I think that this Avengers Secret Wars, I think that's the first upcoming Avengers movie we've had since Endgame. I think this movie is going to make decent money, but when you compare it to what's come before, it's going to be very disappointing. And it'll be fun to talk about the spin on them trying to make this movie sound successful. Anyway, that's pretty much it. Let me know what you think. Also, if you would, please like, subscribe, share the video. Make sure you're still subscribed. Hit that notification bell, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace. Make sure to check out my locals. There's a link in the description. It's a fun community that I'm trying to build over here. If you don't want to support me on YouTube, you can come over here. None of that money goes to YouTube. You also can just come over here for free. But if you are a supporter over here. I do plan on doing an extra live stream once a month and throwing links to the supporters so you can actually come on and have a supporter live stream with me. Also, it's a good place to catch all of my content. You don't have to worry about notifications like YouTube. They'll definitely work over here. So come check out my locals.